St. Lydia of Philippi, remembered 3rd of August. St. Lydia of Philippi, also known as St. Lydia of Thyatira, was the first convert to Christianity in Europe. The Acts of the Apostles, a book in the New Testament, records when she encountered St. Paul at Philippi. The name by which she is known, Lydia, is unlikely to have been her birth name, but rather an indicator that she was known in Philippi as a woman who had come from the town of Lydia in Asia Minor. Lydia was one of a large number in the Greek world called righteous Gentiles, who were people who believed in the one God, but who had not taken the step of actually converting to Judaism. She was a trader in purple cloth. At this time, and until the 19th century, purple cloth was highly prized as it was expensive and hard to make. The only source of purple came from a dye, Tyrian purple, made from the secretions of a sea snail found in part of the Mediterranean. Making this dye was a laborious process, taking over 12,000 snails to make no more than 1.4 grams of dye, just enough to colour only the trim of a single garment. This is why purple has become the imperial colour of princes and emperors, and why traders in purple cloth could demand high prices for their products. Acts records Lydia's meeting with St. Paul like this. When they had travelled to Philippi, and had gone on the Sabbath to a place of prayer by the river, and had begun to talk to the women gathered there, a certain woman named Lydia, a seller of purple, of the city of Thyatira, one who worshipped God, heard us, whose heart the Lord opened to listen to the things which were spoken by Paul. When she and her household were baptized, she begged us, saying, "If you have judged me to be faithful to the Lord, come into my house and stay." So she persuaded us. It is speculated that Lydia would have been a widow, as there were few other ways for a woman to have her own profitable business and her own household, and to be able to offer the hospitality of her home at short notice on her own authority. Lydia's encounter with Paul and her hospitality showed courage. Having a group of foreign men stay in her house could have caused scandal. Hosting meetings where a new Jewish Messiah was worshipped, rather than an emperor or an ancient pagan god, could have ruined her reputation and her business. She received Paul and Silas into her home in Philippi just after their release, and as an angry crowd sought their expulsion from the city as disruptors of the peace. Persecution emerged early against the young church, as Jesus warned his disciples that it would, before his death. We know that Paul and his group spent several weeks staying with Lydia, and that it was in her home that the first church in Philippi met. She is the most likely person to have led and cared for the first congregation at Philippi. She is yet another example of how the gospel freed people of either gender, regardless of their previous religious background or economic status. Some of Paul's letters to the early church dealt with the difficulties of wealthy traders, soldiers, foreigners, poor families and slaves, all meeting together for a faith they shared in equality, when the rest of their lives was marked by the divisions between them. Women like Lydia were at the centre of the early church. They had a variety of roles, including caring for local groups of believers, evangelizing, and furthering the Christian mission. The church at Philippi existed because of Lydia's generous heart and welcoming home. St. Lydia of Philippi is remembered on the 3rd of August.